Hello everyone, this is Caroline, and in today's video I am sharing my 10 cards that I created with the Spellbinders Card Kit Love the Moment from January 2020. So let's jump right into card number 1. For card number 1 I chose this purple pattern paper, and I glued this on some old sketchbook paper to make it more durable. And then I taped that down and I used a carawel stencil, which has this beautiful flower pattern on it, and like a new medium to me. It's a chiffon paste from Bobani that I got a while ago from Tuesday morning. And because I didn't know how this gonna behave, I just tried it first with my gel plate triangle, and then I just used my craft knife. It was very smooth to put onto that paper. So after this is dried, I am attaching a purple cardstock to my card, and this dried very nicely actually. It gives a really satin shiny finish. I cut this to size and I roughed up the edges, and I also gave it a little bit gave the edge a little touch of purple, and then I glued it to my base here. Now I'm arranging my focal point and my flowers. My focal point is gonna be the sentiment from the die cuts. It's Inspire, Create, Dream, and I chose 2 of those glitter sparkle die cuts, and I am actually gluing those down first with some liquid glue. And then I am adhering or attaching my sentiment in the middle with some foam tape, and then I am arranging my flowers and the leaves, and I actually cut away the white outline around the flowers. And I also attaching them with some foam tape. And then I fussy cut some of the butterflies out of the butterfly pattern paper that came with the kit, and I'm arranging them almost like a half circle around the sentiment. And for final touch, I'm using some of those glittery sparkle dots that came with the kit, and then just arranging them around the flowers and the butterflies. And then I'm just adding a little bit of glaze on the middle of the butterflies, and this is the first card. Card number 2. For card number 2, I used the pattern paper that had the dots on it, and I just cut a rectangle, and then I'm using a die that I had in my stash from Studio Light, and it's this cutout hearts, and I cut this out on white with white cardstock, and then I cut another piece a heart with this Bordeaux colored or purpley color, and one of the gold foil color. And then I decided to use the die cut that came with the kit, that little convertible, and I cut this out in this light purple color. And in order to inlay the silver, I actually glued just regular magic tape on the back, and then stick sticked in those little pieces. And here you guys see me how I put this little card together. So I choose only gold with this gold foil and white. Now here I'm just using my sponge glue and I'm just dipping my heart shapes into it and then adhering it onto the background. And then I inlay the other pieces, the gold foil and this dark purple or Bordeaux color. And it's not Bordeaux, it's like a dark violet color. Then I'm attaching my double-sided tape and adhering this to my card base. And then I'm working on my sentiment. I cut out a little circle with the gold foil, used like a die for my stash. And I also lift up that little sentiment on top of it with foam tape. I actually used the leftover from those sticky foam dots that come with the kit, and they're still usable for larger areas. I attached also the car with those. And I'm always, of course, using now this glittery dots for embellishment. And some Nuvo drops as well. And this is the finished card. Card number 3. For card number 3, I used a piece of vellum and I am stamping on or using the stamp from the set, from the kit, and I used embossing ink and I gonna emboss this in gold. And I don't know about you guys, but I had a hard time with the stamp. I tried different things, but in the end, the only thing that really worked for me was the embossing. I tried to stamp this in black and I could not get a clear picture of the stamp to work. So I decided to make this a square card. So I just cut the Spellbinder card that comes with the kit. I just cut this to a square and I layer this with a gold foil, and on top I have this black and white flowery pattern, and then I just cut out the stamped image, and I will give this pattern paper some color with my Mica Magic, and I used like a purpley pinkish colors to just easily fast color them in. Then I'm giving the edge a little bit of a green. I use like a Versa Magic ink in green. I think that's the olive one. And then I'm layering my card. And I lift up the flower image or the flower pattern with some foam tape. And then I'm also fussy cut. I use the other paper and I fussy cut some of the flowers, the smaller ones. And I also give them a little green touch from the leftover on my blending tool. And I also used some two of the leaves that came with the die cut kit and a butterfly. Now I'm attaching my vellum in the middle, and I'm laying my flowers and leaves behind it. and then I'm lifting up one of them on top, and I actually did this a little bit to cover the stamped image because I was still not happy with the image. And then I'm going ahead and I'm embellishing with the crystal drops and some Nuvo drops. And here's the finished card. Card number 4. Okay, for card number 4, I chose 2 pattern papers. I chose the pattern paper that has the map on it, and I cut an edge into it with one of my dies that I have on stash. And I also used the one that had this geometric stripes pattern on it. I used my vintage oxide ink and I inked up the edge of the map and the top part. And then I glued this edge onto this geometric pattern. And then I used the die cut that came, or this die cut sticker that came with the kit, and I cut off just the bottom white edge. And then I used a stamp that I have. It's a range of trees, and I stamped in with archival vintage photo onto this geometric background. And then I adding a little bit more to the edge, and then I cut this to size, and I also inking up the edges from this whole thing. And then I'm using the tape and attaching this to my card base. And then as my focal point, I'm using the little card and I attach it with foam tape. I used black foam tape because I thought it looks nicer on the black background. And here it is, and here you can see I find it nicer to cut away this bottom part of the card, the white, so it looks nicer on the black background. Now I used one of the stickers that came with the kit. I sticked it on a white cardstock and then cut it out, and with vintage photo, I etched the edge. I ink blended a little bit on the edge, and then I am adding some white picket fence splatters to the bottom part. And then I let that dry, and here is the finished card. Card 5. Okay, for card 5, I chose this beautiful flower black and white pattern, and here again I am gluing this to an old sketchbook paper to make it more durable. And then I'm using some clear gesso and my spatula and just give this pattern paper a very, very, very light coat of clear gesso. The reason for that is that I want to use my gelatos to color the flowers, and they just behave much better on gesso than on untreated paper. So I chose also the die cuts and the little sticker that I cut to size and glued it on gold foil. And here are my colors. I put them out like a palette on my glass plate, and I spritz them on with water, and then I'm just going ahead and using literally my fingers and color in those flowers. And this is so much fun. If you have the Faber-Castell gelatos, you should try this. This is so much fun to color stuff. It's very easy, and it looks so nice when it's done, when it's dried. And since the gelatos come in a variety, they come in metallic and in pastel, it's really nice to just mix those together. So here that's done, and of course for my final, I love to give it a little splatter. So in this case, I'm using gold splatters and then just splatter them all over it. And this makes a really interesting background. Now I decided to layer this on gold foil. So I cut it to size and attach it to my card. And then I'm choosing a die, a Spellbinders die, a frame die. And I cut this out and attach this to my gold background. Then I'm doubling up my love sentiment to make it really durable or stronger. And attach my butterflies. And I used some little foam dots to adhere my love always sentiment in the middle of the card as my focus point. And then I have this little remember which I'm setting on top. Now I'm adding a little bit of white details with my Posca marker to the flowers. And of course I'm using those crystal dots. And sometimes we really have to glue them on with liquid glue because they're not so sticky. And I also use some white Nova drops. And here's the finished card. Card 6. Okay, for card 6 I embossed a background with one of my embossing folder that I have on stash. And I used a bunch of the flowers, and I used this wine red Bordeaux colored card stock and created my background. Wanted to layer the white embossed onto this red color. Then I'm using a gold ink and just ink up the edge of that embossed cardstock. And since it's a pigment ink, it's always better to dry this so it doesn't smear. And then I used a piece of black fun foam and adhere this to my embossed because I want this to lift for my card. I'm attaching this to my card. And I really thought that this embossing folder goes perfectly with those colors, with those flowers. Then I do my arrangement, checking how I want to lay this out. And I decided to move the sentiment actually a little bit more off center and have the flowers come out on the top and on top left and on the bottom right. And again, I'm cutting off those white edges from those die cuts, and I decided to add one flower on top. Now first add now my sample piece here. And then I'm attaching my flower, and that's going to lift up a little bit with foam tape. And then I used again one of the two of those, or actually one piece of the glitter leaves, and I cut them to size and attach them to the bottom and top just for a little sparkle. And I hold this all in place with my liquid glue. And then attaching my little sentiment, my additional sentiment to the bottom. And of course, I'm using the crystal dots and some Gold Coast glitter drops. And here's the finished card. Card 7. Okay, card 7. Card 7 is also a card with lots of flowers. I decided to use that pattern paper that has the flowers on the bottom, and I'm using my ruler here, my tear guide, and make waves on one side and smaller waves on the other side. Then I am going to ink the edge up with some purple ink. And I am gonna attach this onto this white with gold foil pattern paper. I go ahead and I again trim off this white edge around my flower there, and I'm gonna add this on top with foam tape. Actually, first I'm gonna attach it to my card, and then I'm attaching my flowers. Yeah, here you go. I also used two of the glitter leaves. One gonna let come up on the side, on the left side, and the other one I'm using on the right side. And I'm attaching the other rose on top and another leaf. And then I chose one of the stickers, the Be Happy, and I again glued this on a white leftover piece of white cardstock, and then I'm inking up the edge, and I'm also attaching foam tape and have this sit right on top. And then I cut out my other piece, and I glued it on foil, gold foil, and then I cut it to size, and I'm hearing this on the bottom of that sentiment. And for final touch, I'm using again the glitter dots. And here is the finished card. Card 8. Okay, card 8. Again, another flower card, because there are so many beautiful flowers in this kit. I chose the Bordeaux colored cardstock and created myself a card with it. And then I chose this geometric pattern, and again I glued this first on old sketchbook paper, and then I'm again adding some gesso, clear gesso, to this piece of paper. And after this is dry, I'm going to use a stencil, and I'm going to use some just regular modeling paste and stencil this on this pattern paper. And I'm also adding a little bit to the right side. And I want to create a background that has almost like a rustic mixed media feel to it. So again, I'm using my Mica Magics, and in this case I'm choosing like a almost like a brownish shiny color and a green bluish turquoiseish color, and I just rub this over my stenciled background. And then I'm using some archival, I think that's black soot, and I'm etching, yeah, it's black soot, and I'm etching up the edges, and then I'm giving it another touch of gold on top. After this is done, I'm attaching this to my card, and I love how this turned out. You still can see a little bit on the pattern paper, but it's all shiny, rustic looking. And then I'm cutting, actually these are cutouts. I fussy cut those flowers out of the pattern paper. And I'm gluing one on the side, then top. And then I'm using again 2 of the glitter die cuts. And I chose one of the die cuts, and I cut out the sentiment, and I didn't want it to be on the background, so I just glued them again on white cardboard and white cardstock and just cut them out, and then I placed them with foam tape on top of the card. And again, I'm using those beautiful crystal drops. And here's the finished card. Card 9. Okay, for card 9. I chose this pattern paper that has those little globes with the flowers, and I used a frame die that I had in stash, and then I used one of the wooden dies that I had in my stash for a while. They're from Maggie Holmes, and I thought this would work perfectly with this card. So I'm gluing on my background paper here, and then I'm sticking on a little piece of pearlescent cardstock to the back of the wooden frame. And then I'm gluing this whole frame to my card. And I'm sticking one of the globes, and I'm lifting up the other one on top with foam tape into this frame. And I'm adding with the glue dot also a little butterfly on top. And then I used my sentiment and I doubled them up, and I choose, I put a little bit of foam tape there so it would lift on top of the wood frame, would sit there nicely. There. And again, I'm used this beautiful glitter drops, glitter dots. Excuse me. And I'm adding clear glaze to my butterfly. And this is the finished card. And here we are on 10 cards. This is card number 10. Okay, for this card I decided to make myself a background, and I used 3 different oxide inks, and I started up using Victorian Velvet and Picket Raspberry, and I just put in a piece of craft mat and spritz it with water, and then I'm picking up the color with my piece of white cardstock. And I'm working here in layers, so once I have my first layer ready. I will actually dry this, and then I'm going ahead and adding another layer. And this time I'm using more pink. And again, I'm just using certain sections of my paper and then let it run. And I love the effect that you can achieve with this oxide inks. It's just so nice. You can create really nice patterns. So after this is dry, I'm doing my, I think this is my final layer. I'm adding them a little apart, just the purple now. I'm adding the purple and I'm spritzing them separate. So I have one section that has this light pink and then one section that has the pink and the purple. And you can see how this lighter pink on the edges looks a little different. And then I'm picking up that purple for the middle of the card. And I'm doing this until I have it like I want. So in this case, I wanted to get more purple. So what I'm doing actually is, after this round, I let it dry again, and then I'm just using purple now and adding my purple to my background. There you go. And it has this chalky effect that you get from the oxides. Now I decided I want to create a kind of a ray of shimmer. So I used my rose quartz dilution shimmer spray and sprayed this to a Tim Holtz stencil. And it looks really cool because the rays are now in shimmer against this matte effect from the oxide inks. Picking up the top part, and you can see how that shimmers. Now I didn't waste the other side, so I created, while I was doing this background, I created actually 3 different ones that I can use for other projects to not waste all ink or that spray. Now here I'm again using my picket fence white color and some splatters, and I'm roughing up the edge here, and I'm using again that pink raspberry there and at edge, and then I'm attaching this to my card, and then I am creating another card with my with the die, and this time I cut out the card with a white Pearlescent cardstock, leftover piece that I had, and I inlaid silver here. And I'm adding some gold details as well. Go. And I also die cut these balloons that say love, and I wanted them to be in gold. So this card could be anything. It could be a Valentine's card, it could also be a wedding card, it could be an anniversary card. I think this is a very nice a card that could go for so many occasions. Then I'm using this clear tape and add this to my card, and I'm adding those foam dots that came with the kit to my balloons. Then I'm arranging them on my background before I glue everything on. we go. And then I'm using my little twine here and tape them down with some double-sided tape to keep them in place. And I'm checking if that works out, and cut this off, and then I attaching my card. There you go. And then for the last part, I'm die cut the moment that came with the kit and adhering it down with my liquid glue. And I am using my pink drops there, dots, and also some pink glittery Nuvo drops. And here's the finished card. And now you can see all the cards again. And of course, I hope that you like my creations and feel inspired again, or if you haven't dived into your kit, or if you're still working with your kit, maybe got some ideas out of this video. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that I will not be able to subscribe any longer to card kits. I have to make a severe cut into my craft budget due to my changes, my financial changes. I am going to pursue another career, and I had to cut down a little bit, but with that said, I will create more videos and I will use all the things that I have in my stash, and I really hope that in a while I can actually subscribe again to card kits and will make more card kits videos. But for now, I just gonna use and create cards with things that I have laying around here and haven't used. So I hope you are following me and you will actually be interested to see what I will create. And I hope you have a great week, and I hope I see you in my next video. Until then, bye.